So we can now turn our attentions to the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup. A rolling start for this one as well. There'll also be mandatory pit stops for all of the cars. And sitting there on pole position, a guest of Radical this weekend, car number 18, his first time out in Radical, an SR8 he'll be driving. His British touring car star, Paul O'Neill. He will line up alongside what is the starter in car number 88, Ross Kaiser. The safety car pulls off the circuit. We're about to go Radical UK Cup racing here at Oulton Park, and they charge down towards Old Hall for the first time. You can hear the noise coming from these 2.6 litre V8 engine that power the Radical SR8s in the Masters class. It's a spin coming out of the first corner. There's contact further down through the field as well. A whole host of cars involved in this one, as we saw in the Radical UK Cup earlier on. And it looks as though Manhalalos may well have been one of those involved. I think Sean Bolf may also well have got caught up. The race continuing in the meantime with car number 18, Paul O'Neill, leading from number 88, Ross Kaiser in second place. Reigning champion Derek Johnston is there in third position. And we're side by side. It looks as though Alex Capardi in the red car managing to get through and ahead of Tom Ashton. You can see cars strewn across the circuit. We ride on board with Manhalalos. Let's have a look at the replay. The red lights go out. It's Ross Kaiser directly ahead of us, and as Manhalalos heads down towards Old Hall Corner for the first time, you can see Derek Johnston's black car just gets up the inside. Alos has to run wide on the exit. Look at the contact he makes with Sean Bolf's car, which rips the rear end off that SR8. And thankfully for Manhalalos and Sean Bolf, they avoid further contact with other cars as they spin out of control. So the safety car comes out whilst the cars are recovered. The lights are now out on the safety car. We're about to go racing once more. Paul O'Neill, of course, leading the race overall. He weaves from side to side. The pace car pulls off. We go racing once more as we ride on board with Ross Kaiser in second position. Ross Kaiser will hand the 360 racing machine over to Terence Woodward for the second part of the race as the field make their way through Old Hall Corner. We ride on board with Alex Capardia as he heads down through Denton's up towards Cascades. Changes of position ahead, and it looks as though Stuart Mosley, nice to see him back in the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup. He loses a position there, down through Lakeside. There goes Paul O'Neill in the relay race. Ross Kaiser's second. Derek Johnston is there in third place. In fourth position, it's the car of Rob Weldon, number 70. So that's the leading Supersports class car at the moment. The 28-year-old from Peterborough, the race team manager for Radical, leads the Supersports section of the race. As we ride on board with Alex Capardia, he shares this car with the man we've seen out in the Quaife Radical Club Cup, Colin Miller. Through Knickerbrook and up Clay Hill they go. The Supersports battle is certainly raging, as is the overall battle. Paul O'Neill having been caught by Ross Kaiser. Through Druids up towards Lodge they will come, with Paul O'Neill having a very, very small advantage between himself and Ross Kaiser. He's keeping her extremely honest. Derek Johnson, the reigning champion, falling that little bit further back. And a great battle for the leader of the Supersports class up the inside. Dive Stuart Mosley on Rob Weldon. Both of them, of course, have spent a lot of time in Radical racing over the last few years. Rob Weldon defending very well, as in the pit lane comes Derek Johnston. So Derek Johnston dropping into the pits. He's the first of our cars to stop and come into the pits. To ride on board with the car in second place once more, that being Ross Kaiser. There's Derek Johnston in the pits. Into the pits also comes car number 24, Chris Hillaby. It looks as though Ross Allen in that red and yellow machine is also feeding his way through. Both of those cars in the Supersports class. A very busy pit lane it will become, because the pit window here is only 5 minutes, and therefore it's in reality just 3 laps that all the cars have to come into the pits and complete their mandatory driver changes, and have to remain stationary subject to the class and whether they're a Pro-Am or an Am-Am pairing for either 40, 50 or 60 seconds. So Ross Kaiser now brings the 360 racing machine into the pits. We can see Terence Woodward poised and ready to get in. It looks as though into the pits also at exactly the same time as come Paul O'Neill. The race for the lead is going to be settled in the pit lane, as out of the car has already jumped Ross Kaiser. Terence Woodward in the car and being strapped in. You can see a whole train of cars making their way down the pit lane. There's number 70 as well, which is Rob Weldon. He's about to vacate that car. It'll be taken over from him by the 54-year-old from Glasgow, the director, David Thornburn. In the meantime, out on circuit, those cars that have continued for a few further laps will therefore inherit the lead. As into the pits comes number 75 as well, that being Paul Steele. Out onto the circuit, of course, the early pit stopper, Derek Johnston. And for the moment, we wait the rest of the cars to make their way out onto the circuit. This is Colin Miller. He's taken over the car from Alex Capardia. Back out onto the circuit goes the man from Northern Ireland. But there is Derek Johnston. That early pit stop certainly seems to have played into his hands at the moment. number 53, which is the car that's now driven by John Lord, making its way out on the circuit. And there's poor old Paul O'Neill. Looks as though that car does not want to fire itself into life. The Radical mechanics busy with him. Others sprinting down the pit lane to assist, and it looks as though the car eventually fires itself into life. But Paul O'Neill, who was in the lead of the race prior to the pit stop window opening, is going to tumble down through the order. And what can he do about recovering the time lost in the pits? To Oulton Park and the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup. There goes number 18, Paul O'Neill, who suffered those problems in the pit lane, which cost him time and put him down to 10th position. He's now making his way up through the order. Past Ross Allen he goes. He dives up the inside as well of the Scotsman David Thornburn. So a couple of places gained there for Paul O'Neill. He'll want to try and minimise the impact of the damage caused from that problem in the pits, as we ride on board with a slowing Terence Woodward, having just taken over the 360 racing machine from Ross Kaiser. All is not well out of the island hairpin and onto the outside of the circuit, and potentially into retirement by the look of things for poor old Terence Woodward. Here is our race leader, Derek Johnston, already with 2 overall race victories under his belt, both of those coming at rounds 1 and rounds 2 at Rockingham. He had a torrid weekend last time out at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. But for the moment, all is certainly going the way of the reigning champion. And, well, Terence Woodward heading back onto the circuit again, so whatever the problem was at the wheel of that car, it's managed to resolve itself, albeit for the moment. Here is tight battle in the Supersports class, with Colin Miller having tucked right underneath him both Tom Ashton and then David Thornburn. Up towards Clay Hill, they all make their way. As onto the last lap now goes Derek Johnston. Paul O'Neill out there and setting fastest laps in this race, but Derek Johnston has got enough advantage surely on this, the final lap, as he heads through Old Hall and down the avenue to claim what for him would be his 3rd victory of the season in the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup. This is a lead battle for Supersports as well. Over the start-finish line they go. Colin Miller under a real whole host of pressure from Tom Ashton as they head over the start-finish line and up towards Old Hall Corner, as out of the final corner, Lodge Corner, comes our race leader, and towards the checkered flag goes Derek Johnston. It looks as though he is indeed going to claim his 3rd victory of the season in the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup. Highly delighted he will be after those problems at the last few rounds at Spa. So Johnston claims victory. Paul O'Neill charges his way back to 2nd. Tom Ashton finishes 3rd and wins the Supersports class.
So no, it was pretty good. In the race, you know, I had a lot of work to do, I knew that, so I just went for a gap off the start. I went from 6th to 3rd in turn 1, and then, you know, lucky for me, there was a bit of coming together further down as I'd already gone through, which put the safety car out, and then there was a lot of debris and stuff on the track, which meant we went to half distance. So really we just had to run from half time to the end, and it was pretty cool. I think we had a 20-odd second lead, so it was just drive around and look after the car, really.
And a stunning drive also from Radical debutant Paul O'Neill.
Paul, a very well-known face in British motorsport, used to driving a touring car. So what the hell are you doing in a Radical this weekend?
I seem to be racing every weekend at the minute. I'm doing a piece for Motorsport News, who I work for. Just a track test that's turned into a race weekend. I tested the car on Friday for 20 minutes. Absolutely loved it. Phil Abbott couldn't get me out of the thing from Radical, so he said, "Do you want to race it?" I said, "Oh yeah, come on then." And yeah, we had to now we've had a double pole and we finished 2nd. So I'm over the moon. It's a completely different car than what I'm used to. So tell you what, it's proper scary. I'm scared now. Still just stood here, you know.
So you join us part way through race 2 as Paul O'Neill continues to lead the race. Down through Cascades comes Roger Bromley in 2nd place and runs wide. That's going to allow Terence Woodward through. He's in danger of losing another place because the reigning champion, number 1, Derek Johnston, is not that far away as well. Is Johnson going to get up the inside for Island Hairpin? Yes, indeed, he does. So Johnson goes through. So from being in 2nd a few moments ago, Roger Bromley, the former short oval racer, now finds himself down in 4th position. Pit window is fast approaching us as well. There's Ross Kaiser getting ready to take over the 360 racing machine that's currently in the hands of Terence Woodward. And here is the lead battle in the Supersports class as well. Tom Ashton still palming away the red and yellow car of Ross Allen, not that far behind him. Over the start-finish line, those two come. We saw Tom Ashton finish in the top 3 in the race earlier on today. Let's see where he can propel the Supersports class car to in this one. Here also comes the car of Mark Smithson, car number 7. He shares that car with Stuart Mosley this weekend. See the drivers getting suited and booted, ready to dive into their respective mounts, as now into the pits comes the first of the pit stoppers. It's an early stop for Terence Woodward. Ross Kaiser, no disrespect to Terence, the faster of the two drivers. We've seen Ross out in a whole host of things over the years. A former club sport champion in Radicals, a former pro sport champion in Radicals. We've also seen him in European Ferraris as well. Great battle going on between the two super sports class cars of Paul Steele and then the Black Machine of Chris Smithson. Up towards Hislops, there's a spin for Chris Smithson. That's right in front of Paul O'Neill. Paul O'Neill takes to the grass as well. All over the grass he goes. I'm sure he'll rejoin without a problem, as will car number 7, Chris Smithson. As out of the pit lane now comes car number 88, having been vacated by Terence Woodward. He's now got Ross Kaiser at the wheel, and further driver changes going on. The driver in the white helmet is Colin Miller, who is just vacating the SR3. It is now being occupied by Alex Capardia. Into the pit lane has gone Roger Bromley, because out onto the circuit now goes number 14 in the hands of Sean Bolf. However, continuing round is Paul O'Neill. He is destined for the pits this time, so into the pits comes the race leader. It looks like there's problems for the car that was in the hands of Chris Smithson and had that spin. It's got Stuart Mosley behind the wheel, but not going anywhere currently. As there goes car number 24, that being Chris Hillaby. New to motor racing this year is Chris Hillaby, and he's gone well so far this weekend. Sean Bolf, number 14, pressing on as well. Of course, Sean Bolf being the former Spanish GT champion from a few years ago. As there in the pit lane is erstwhile race leader Paul O'Neill at the wheel of the 2.6 litre V8 engined Radical SR8. A little bit of tyre pressure adjustment being done, and into the gravel trap by the look of things. That's Luigi Gatti, car number 87. Only just taken over the car from Sammy Sumin, the two drivers from London. Here comes number 1, our race leader now, Derek Johnston. He's inherited the lead from Paul O'Neill. And let's have a look at what happened to Luigi Gatti. Up towards Druids he comes. A spin, carries a bit too much speed in and into the gravel trap. Not that far into the gravel trap. And potentially that could bring about a safety car. Well, here comes the battle for the lead of the race. Derek Johnson still hanging on to the lead of the race, but Ross Kaiser is right there with him. The car in third place, the white car with the yellow flashes, is British touring car racer Paul O'Neill. They head over hilltop and down into the braking area for Hislops, and it looks as though Ross Kaiser is having a quick look at trying to take the lead of the race. No gap there for him to try and propel his way through and claim top spot, but Johnston gets a little bit sideways midway through the Hislops and Knickerbrook section of the circuit. Through has gone Ross Kaiser, no second opportunity needed. He grasps the lead of the race. Derek Johnston, reigning champion and race 1 winner, now down into second place. Paul O'Neill sits there in third position. It's been a good weekend for Paul O'Neill so far. They head under the bridge and up towards Lodge Corner with Ross Kaiser in the lead of the race. We saw 2 race victories for the pairing of Ross Kaiser and Terence Woodward at Spa-Francorchamps. Can they claim their 3rd victory of the season in the Competition Car Insurance Radical UK Cup here at Oulton Park? Johnston down in second place, losing ground to race leader Ross Kaiser as they head onto their final lap of the race. So just another 2.226 miles of the Oulton Park Island circuit between Ross Kaiser and Terence Woodward, and another victory. We're right on board with Man Halalos, who had those problems in the first race. He is in 5th position in this one as Derek Johnson comes up towards the braking area for Island Hairpin. He's got Paul O'Neill absolutely in his Dunlop wheel tracks as they head back out of the hairpin up towards Hilltop for the final time in this race. Ross Kaiser, however, is heading under the bridge and up towards Lodge for the final time. It looks as though it is going to be a 3rd victory of the season for the pairing of Ross Kaiser and Terence Woodward. Up towards Deerleap, over the start-finish line, and past the checkered flag they come. They claim the honours. Derek Johnston goes through in second place. Paul O'Neill, what a weekend for him. He's there in 3rd. And that looks like a spin on the very final lap of the race for Peter Osborne, the former Porsche racer. The man from Worksop will hopefully get the car back onto the circuit and will continue round. Here is the battle for the final podium place in Supersports. Through has gone Ross Allen and claimed the class victory from Tom Ashton, but it looks as though the pairing of father and son, James and Phil Abbott, will indeed come through and finish 3rd in the Supersports class. What a result it was for them as well. So Derek Johnson finishes in 2nd, Paul O'Neill is there in 3rd, but race victory goes to Ross Kaiser and Terence Woodward.
Terence, you started the car, you had a few problems in race 1, but you seem to have got those fixed for this race.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had a bit of a tough run into this weekend. We had a difficult practice day on Friday, and then we had a few engine problems this morning in the first race. But we came back with a better car, and I started 3rd, managed to put some pressure on the second place car. He made a mistake and I got past him and then handed over to Ross, I think in 2nd place at that point. But obviously we get a 10-second penalty because of Ross has been a professional. But he more than made up for that, I think.
Yeah, how about that for a race, Ross? What a fantastic battle between Stuart and Paul O'Neill. It must have been really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, it was tough. When I first went out, I could see Paul in front of me, and then he pitted, and then he rejoined with the same gap. So I knew it was going to be hard work, and I think between Paul and myself towards the end there, we were going sideways more than we were going forward in a few places, just pushing as hard as we could. And then they were battling coming up on the pitch straight there, and I managed to get a run, and Paul got him, and then Derek went a little bit deep, and I managed to sneak it down the inside. So yeah, it was pretty hairy, but we got there in the end.
So Terence Woodward and Ross Kaiser maintain their lead in the Masters section of the Championship, and as for Ross Allen, he maintains the lead in the Supersports class.